The federal government is facing renewed pressure to punish China over human rights abuses. China is accused of detaining more than 1 million Muslim minority Uighurs since 2017 in what Beijing calls, quote, re-education centers. Uighurs say they are being held, interrogated, and beaten because of their religion. Over the course of the past few weeks, several dozen senators and MPs in this country have asked the government to impose sanctions against Chinese officials under what's known as the Magnitsky Act. The feds say they are considering all options but won't commit. Bill Browder led the international effort to establish laws to punish human rights abusers and was instrumental in getting the Magnitsky Act passed here in Canada. He happens to be the head of Global Magnitsky Justice Campaign, and he joins us from London, England. Hi, Mr. Browder. Great to have you on the program.
Great to be here.
I'm interested to find out from your perspective, A, why you think the sanctions will be effective, and B, why it's important to partner with our allies in levying them. So let's start off on the first point. Why do you think the sanctions would be effective? Why should Canada be considering imposing them?
Well, first of all, let's just look at the situation. There's a genocide going on right now as we speak under our nose. We've said in many different forums, never again after the Holocaust. There's been multiple genocides. We now have one going on with the Uighur population. Chinese government is implementing it. The evidence is loud and clear, and we can't do nothing. And so then the question is, what should we do? And on one hand, I think that it's unrealistic to ask Canada or any other country to stop doing trade with China. China is too important a trading partner. It would cause a massive economic catastrophe to do that. And we can also not stop having diplomacy with China, but we need to express our outrage in an effective way. And that's what the Magnitsky Act does, is it targets not the country, but individual human rights abusers. And so we know who some of those people are. The United States has already sanctioned 4 Chinese officials. Canada has a Magnitsky Act, and it just seems inconceivable to me that in a situation like this, that Canada wouldn't join the United States and hopefully the United Kingdom in sanctioning those 4 people as a start under the Magnitsky Act, and to hopefully sanction many more who are involved in this genocide.
What would the power be in doing so with the UK, for example? Is it an increased level of effectiveness, do you think?
Well, I think that it does several things. One is that if civilized countries, the countries that Chinese officials and Chinese kleptocrats want to go to, all together stop allowing the Chinese to go there, these Chinese officials to go there and to freeze their assets, that has a very powerful effect. It also, by doing so with allies, reduces the risk of retaliation. China is a mercantile country, that they rely on trade. And if all of a sudden the United States, Canada, the UK, and hopefully Australia, and maybe even the EU were to do this, they can't retaliate against the whole world. And so there is some safety in doing it together.
Yeah, let me pick up on the question of retaliation. It's a live topic here in Canada, given that China has already retaliated for various incidents between our two countries. We've got 2 Canadians, Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor. I know you're nodding, you know very well, have been detained now for, I think it's nearing on, it'll be soon, close to 600 days that they've been in that detainment. We've also had China retaliate on various crops and exports from Canada, food and agriculture exports. What do you say to government officials, let's say, or politicians who are hesitant to impose these sanctions because of a fear of retaliation?
Well, then what that means is that they can take you hostage and blackmail you on any different situation. This is a policy where you're not sanctioning the government of China. You're sanctioning individuals who did terrible things, and you know, China could in theory retaliate, or they could unilaterally attack Canada in all sorts of ways, as they have in the past, and they probably will in the future. You can't be held ransom to effectively terror in this situation. There is a genocide going on. There are 1 million people in concentration camps. Canada has a historic reputation as being a country that stands up for the persecuted, that believes in human rights. To basically say we're worried about selling soybeans, and therefore we're not going to say a word about a genocide, it just doesn't ring true to me as far as how Canada perceives itself and how Canada is perceived in the rest of the world.
What's the cost of not doing something like that, of not imposing the sanctions?
The cost is many people killed. It's a genocide. They're forcibly sterilizing women. The population of the Uighurs has dropped dramatically because China is trying to eradicate them. It's just not right. It's just fundamentally wrong. There couldn't be a more stark example of a human rights abuse, and there couldn't be a more stark example of a proper use of the Magnitsky Act.
If I recall correctly, when that act was being passed and sort of your involvement in crafting it or pushing for it, I know that you know the Deputy Prime Minister, Freeland. I think that, if I remember correctly from our coverage back then, you were informing some of the decisions made, or at least helping with the gathering of information and the lobbying for that act to go ahead and get passed, among other people as well. Have you had any contact with Ms. Freeland, with Minister Freeland on this at all?
I was yesterday. I was involved, or actually 2 days ago, I was involved in the parliamentary hearings on the Uighur situation, and during those hearings, I made it very clear that this is the exact scenario that should be the Magnitsky Act should be used for. I don't want to, since Christia is a good friend of mine, I don't want to get into my private conversations with her. But she's a person who believes profoundly with every cell in her body about human rights, and I would hope that she would be a supporter of this inside the government.
Okay, I'll leave it there. Thank you, Mr. Browder. Pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.